Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Creative Entrepreneur interview series. I'm your co host, Beth Barani, and with me is my co host, Gala Russ. And we have a guest with us, Danika Bloom, who we will have introduced in a moment. A little bit about me: I am an award winning novelist of science fiction and fantasy. I have two series out: Henrietta the Dragon Slayer for the fantasy, and Janie McAllister Space Station Mysteries for the science fiction. And I am a full-time book coach and teacher for science fiction and fantasy writers, helping them really deepen into the editing process so they can release their books to the delight of their readers. And now I'm also helping creative writers who want to build profitable, sustainable businesses serving other creatives, usually other creative writers, so they can share their expertise with confidence while making a living doing what they love. And we have a creative entrepreneurship apprenticeship program coming up in September that we are doing this interview series in support of, and details about that program will be in our show notes. And so I would like to welcome in my co-host, Gala Russ.
Hi, I'm Gal Russ, and I'm so glad to co-host today and co-create the entrepreneurship, uh, creative entrepreneurship apprenticeship, which I feel like can be twister, could be, but it's a cool program where we're trying to help people start up their businesses, start up their creative businesses, and it kind of was a very cool segue for me because Beth was the person who was my mentor, and she went through this journey with me. And as we were doing this journey, the idea was born up. I think other people would want to do that too, would want to have somebody else showing them the ropes because everything is so much faster this way. Stuff that I would have spent weeks, months on, I could accomplish within days. So I'm so grateful to you, Beth. And I came to the world of book coaching, and I also do why do I always forget this? Publishing strategy for people. I came from the romance world. I'm a romance author, and I have been writing with my co-author as Willa Drew and published several books. So you can check us out. So I feel like this is a full circle of support. And the person who we have today, Danika Bloom, is also a romance author, and she's amazing. But I'm going to let her introduce herself. Danika.
Thanks. Thanks, Gala. Thank you, Bez. So I'm Danika Bloom, and I do write romance. I come from a background of not-for-profit writing, where I spent over 25 years as a ghostwriter and curriculum creator for a variety of progressive not-for-profit organizations in Canada, which is where I live. And I loved what Gala was saying, getting that support from Beth to save time and stress and anxiety. My whole work in the not-for-profit sector was typically based around community building for populations that were at risk in some way or another, or organizations that were working with campaigns where something, an environment or a person, a group of people were at risk. And so that support of others and community building has really been a lot at the core of what I do, and is also at the core of, aside from my being a romance author, the creative entrepreneur business that I'm running now, which is called Author Ever After, where I support early career and pre-published romance authors to find their people and find their groove, like their readers and their other authors to support them. And also Swoonworthy Services, which is where I'm connecting service providers who support romance authors with the authors who need the supports, because there's a lot of scanning going on out there in this last year or so. It's getting worse and worse. So created a space that has got safe service providers for romance authors. So that's me.
Oh, that's so wonderful. You're creating a high trust space, which is so critical these days.
Yeah.
So great. I can't remember, Gala, who's going first with the first question. My brain's a bit mush.
I think that I am the first one this time around.
Go for it. Go for it.
The first question we have for you, Danica, is what helped you move from, I'd like to do this thing, I'd like to be a creative entrepreneur and help other writers, to, okay, I'm doing this. I'm getting paid for this. This is happening. Take us to the early days, into the beginning of all of this.
It's interesting. There are a couple of beginnings. So there's fall 1999, which is when I was working as an employee of a not-for-profit organization. and made the decision. I had a management job. I had a great salary and benefits and all those things. And I hated going into work every day because I loved the work. I did all my work all out in community. Like everything I did in my office was in service of going out into community. But while in the office, I wasn't happy. We had a dress code. I didn't like that. Like, I didn't have to interact with people. And there were all kinds of things. So I made a decision to leave that job and become a solopreneur. And I continued to work in the not-for-profit sector doing community building. And it wasn't until I published my first book and I had joined an RWA chapter here and realized how much easier and nicer life was when I had a community of authors who I could meet once a month. And so I got on the board of that organization and learned everything I could about author communities. And then when March 2020 rolled around, there was no longer a need for me. Like I couldn't go out into community and do work anymore. So I turned my focus with a couple of friends. We created an organization, an online community for authors. We had created that earlier, but that's where I put my full attention to the Creative Academy for Writers, which still exists with over 1,500 members. And then a couple of years later, I realized that the people I love most working with are romance authors. And so I said goodbye to my dear friends at the Creative Academy and I launched Author Ever After because I realized, although I can support authors who are writing in all the genres to a degree, my heart is really working with romance authors for many reasons, including the social justice aspect. And my background in social justice just felt like a good fit. So that's kind of how I came to where I am now doing this work.
Yeah, and I love your Substack too. I want to shout that out because I feel like it's a great combination. Like it showcases your personality, your work so great, so well. So
Thanks.
Yeah.
It really is. At first, when I was thinking, like, how do I go from being a financial literacy coach for people living without housing, for instance, to coaching romance writers, it's actually not that much of a stretch because the work that I do is helping people find their voice, share their voice. Like it's all the same work, but just using different tools. So yeah.
That's so great. And was there like a moment where you were at a crossroads where you're like, should I or shouldn't I? Or was it an easy like, oh, of course, community. Well, I'm going to take this next step. Like you moved professions, you know.
Yeah.
And was that hard? Was there, did you do a pros and cons list? Did you search your heart? Did you
Yeah.
how did you deal with the dilemma?
The hardest, like actually, honestly, the hardest launch was stepping away from having a salary and benefits and a day job to go to and trusting that I could do this myself. So that was 25 years ago, right? My last paycheck was December 1999. So January 2000, I became a solopreneur. And since then, it's been easy. Every iteration has been relatively easy because I can just feel the flow is taking me. I didn't start doing what I'm doing. Okay. Here's another thing for creative entrepreneurs. My dad was an entrepreneur, like in the business world, entrepreneur, like companies that created paint and things like that. And my mom is an artist and she's made her living as a craftsperson and artist. So kind of taking those two things and blending them seems really obvious to me and easy. And it was also, I feel quite blessed and lucky that flowing from one idea to the next when one doesn't pan out is just like, okay, well, that was a step. I never see things as a mistake. So like, well, Right Woman Right was something I started and that didn't pan out. I wasn't ready for it yet. I knew I wanted to work with women authors, but at the time I wasn't writing romance. I was working on creative nonfiction. And out of that, though, came the Creative Academy for Writers with two friends. And out of that came Author Ever After. And in between and before were a whole bunch of other little steps. The hardest one was just taking that step out of getting a salary and trusting myself that I could do this.
I see the theme of trust is big. That's wonderful. Yeah, that's so great. So in what ways we're talking about this evolution, one thing flowing into the next and each thing being a step and not a mistake. So in what ways has your offer evolved from when you started, maybe even Author Ever After, or even before that, when you started the other author community? Yeah, how has your offer evolved? And you can pick whatever starting point you want.
Well, I'll stay in the present then. So with Author Ever After, which launched in August 3 years ago, so 2022. And when I launched it, I had a certain level of confidence, which was doing mindset work with authors. That's what I had been doing in the Creative Academy. And my peers, one of them was working with craft, and the other one was working on the business side. And a third was, and then we brought in a fourth person, and she did kind of the tech. So we each had our own pillars. So when I launched Author Ever After, I had confidence in the pillar of mindset. But and I attracted the first 15 or so members. But as they grew, I had to start to have more confidence in coaching at levels that I hadn't before. So Author Ever After now is supporting authors who all the way through to being published. When I launched the business, I assumed people would leave once they finished once they, that they would go somewhere else. They're not leaving. So it's beautiful. So the business has just naturally changed, and I've had to grow with that. Together we're growing. And if I come back to trust again, it's trusting that the community, because Author Ever After it's a membership community, that they can guide where we're going and keep the container working for them in a safe space for everybody there. So it has morphed a lot in the last 3 years.
I love that. This is a reoccurring theme. Yeah. All day, you're our 15th interview, and people are talking about really listening to their clients, really listening to what it is that people want, really letting that guide them. And I mean, you hear this outside of this industry as well, meaning other kinds of businesses, but we're really letting our customers and our clients tell us what they need. I mean, before Gala came to me and said, I want to be a book coach, I actually already had one other client who it kind of organically happened. And actually, I've been wanting for like over 10 years to be helping people. And I've been unofficially mentoring my peers in various ways. Like, oh, sure, I can help you. Oh, sure, I can look at your marketing copy. Oh, sure. Have you thought about this or have you thought about that? And it's only been, when Gala came to me and said, I want to do what you do. Can you help me? Made me actually take a step up. Oh, let me formalize our work, the framework of training others. And then I waited a few months until I said to Gala, let's do a training program. Like I actually waited. I had the idea pretty early on, but I'm like, she would be really right for it, but can she execute? And then you executed and you got clients and we did a workshop and you did speaking engagements. I helped you like build all this stuff after you built a bunch of things. I'm like, yeah, okay, let me float this offer to you. But it was because I saw you had the capability, and I also saw that you were the type of person who was following through. So, I mean, just listening to our clients and our customers. And so it's so beautiful that you say that. And who knows where your clients, their members will take you all. What do they need next? Like that, who knows?
Well, and that's Swoon Worthy Services was not something it had ever. It wasn't something I was planning on doing. But when you have authors coming to you every single week in office hours and saying, I can't find an editor who respects romance, or I can't find an editor who reads this subgenre, understands the tropes, cover designers, I'm not getting what I need, became so obvious that being that person who can bridge between folks like Gala, who work with and understand the romance genre, and the folks who need those services is an important role to play. So again, that was listening and just being open to, well, this could be fun. I honestly, every day I come into my office, what's going to be fun today?
Oh, that's such a great question. It segues us, I think, to the next question, right?
Yeah, that feels so good to me. Yeah, one of the things I wanted to mention is there's so many ideas as a creative person that are floating around, and sometimes it's hard to pick which one to go for, or you don't really know which one to go for. And then there are either clients or colleagues or, just there's a certain like download aspect to it where if you're listening and if you're ready, if you're paying attention, it comes into your life and these questions are being answered. So I was trying to figure out the book coaching business, and I took a coaching class before, and it was like, But and then just randomly meeting Beth at that writers club meeting and asking. That's another thing that we were having a big theme today, is asking for help. And she did this wonderful workshop, and I'm like, I like her. Like, the vibe is there, but it was scary because a lot of times for you, when you're at the beginning and somebody else is far ahead, you're like, I feel like I'm going to be wasting that person's time if I'm going to come up to them and say, hey, you are such an accomplished person, and you have this, and I'm a nobody, and I'm coming here and I'm asking you for this help, for your time, for your whatever. I'm just not going to do it. What if they say no? It just feels embarrassing going and getting over that anxiety and asking. It was not easy. I do like people. I do like talking to people, but it was not just like, sure, I'm just going to go do it. But going and asking, and Beth was like, yeah, I would love to do this. And how about I'm going to be your mentor? And I'm like, I didn't even think that was an option. I was like, I didn't even expecting that level. I wasn't expecting that level of reciprocity, right? But it all works. So being open and then going and asking for help. And I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but what you were saying, Danika, resonated a lot. So let me dive into the final question here. Could you share, segue actually, could you share an experiment or a risk you took in your business and what came out of it?
A risk I took. Oh, why? So why am I?
Or an experiment. You tried something that
Well,
you
okay.
like.
So yeah, I did a coaching program with someone because before I launched, this was before even the Creative Academy, and yeah, I invested $2,000 in a program that kind of it was to help me figure out my first offer, and the idea was give it away for free and test it. Brilliant, give it away for free and test it. I did that. It worked like a charm. It ended up being the basis of what the Creative Academy and Author Ever After was built on. However, what was really interesting was the experiment, in a way, succeeded because I tested the market. But it also failed because it never took into account, now what do you do with these 100 people who you've just developed a relationship with, who are waiting for something new from you or something more from you? I had nothing to offer. So that was one of those early in that particular business area experiences where I realized I have to be thinking, like, what's the next step? Once I engage with this person, once I deliver and I've found the right people, where do I go with them next? And so that was it was in a sense an experiment that both succeeded and failed at the same time.
Yeah. And
And the funnel effect, you need to know, if you have this audience, how are you going to keep them? How do you make them your own audience? And that's why we talk a lot about newsletter building and community building, because you want to keep those people, and not all of them are going to stay, but you want to keep those people in your orbit. And yeah, if you will go to say something too.
well, I mean, I think this segues us to the final question that I really am curious to know about. And also, I think our audience would be, which is how do I have so much to say more, but I just want to ask this because I think a big scary part, there you were, you offered something for free and you realized you didn't have a follow-up. Um, and maybe you learned from that to have a follow-up. So, and I'm wondering if there's any other story that you want to share about launching an offer or a workshop that maybe succeeded, and you could even share with us what worked well and also what didn't. But I'm really curious about the launching because that often is the go, no go, thinking of sending a rocket up into space, right? Sci-fi. The go, no go moment. There's always a go, no go moment in a rocket launch where they're going to decide whether or not to let that rocket go. And there's all these factors. So, and I'm wondering, and when you're new and you're launching, it can be very scary. It's still kind of scary for me. I mean, now I have a lot of practice. So now I know how to walk myself into it and all these things, but there's a lot on the line, right? When we try and launch something new.
There is, yeah. So I don't. I don't know if I'm going to answer the question the way you are hoping I'll answer it, but I'm going to answer it from the perspective of on the Clifton strengths, I'm a number one learner. So I'm all about, and you're both number one learners. It's I guess not that uncommon in this field. I spend a lot of time inputting, and the hard part for me is taking that next step to then push the new thing out, the launch, right? But also as a number one learner, I freaking love learning. So I love building and creating new things. And as a creative entrepreneur, I think I see this so commonly. I do it myself, and it is not to our benefit. I create something new, I launch it, it goes well. And then I create something else new and I launch it. And that thing over there that I really should be making better, do iteration 2, find the next audience for. I'm letting it sit. And that is for 2025 has been my big lesson after, I'm just launched my third year of Author Ever After, or I'm in my fourth, and my math is terrible. 2022 I did, 2023, 24. So I'm in my fourth year. I have about 7 programs that I've delivered once. This is the year to take those programs and hone them. Like, it doesn't take a lot of work, but when you are a creative entrepreneur and you love the creative part, dialing it back and remembering that if this is going to be a business, the entrepreneur part, you have to actually stop creating and start businessing. So I'm just going to share that as my kind of also saying it out loud for myself to like remind myself again and again and again that is where I am in my evolution of being a creative entrepreneur.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great one because this year I started, so it was last year, when Beth said, so what are the offers? What are the things? I was like, well, I can do this and this and this and this and this, and also this, but also that is also of interest. She's like, okay, pick 30. And then when you go to organizations and when you promote yourself, like start with this 3, and then you can also see what are the people most responding to. And then basically there are 2, depending on what the audience is, that people consistently pick. And then I ended up circling it and focusing on 1 because the romancing the subplot turned out to be pretty much everybody who is not a romance author was interested in romancing the subplot. So it was a little bit of that market testing too. Like I started with this, but now I had a chance to deliver it in so many different formats and shapes and sizes. And it was cool to dial it in and dial it out, make it shorter, make it bigger, and figure it all out. And then the other ideas that I delivered once, so they're not as deeply developed, right? They still need oomph and still need some experimentation around it because there's a difference. When you deliver the same thing multiple times, you don't perfect it, but you do learn. And
Yeah.
as a learner, that is a different way of learning, as well.
Yeah.
But it's so cool that all 3 of us are number one learners, just saying.
Well, I have met lots of writers who are number one learners. They're like, give me all the things, which is fabulous as a teacher, but also I'm a teacher and a student like every day. And it's so fun, so fun. Yeah, so this wasn't on our list, but I want to ask you this, and we'll end the interview on this, which is if there's someone out there who wants to bring their expertise out to other creative writers, do you have any words of advice for them if they're just starting out? They know their thing, they know their offer, I mean, they know their craft, however they want to support, but they're hesitant around the business side and they haven't started. Any advice for them?
So my advice with everything is almost always the same, and that is reach out and have one-on-one conversations with either or both, like Gala did, going and talking to someone who's already doing it to see what is that life really like. Like if until we're doing it, we don't know what that life is like. So find out if in fact what you think it is what it is, and also do some market research. Find and talk to people who you think would benefit from this idea, the service that you have, and find out, what it is that they really need. Spend enough time doing the research that I think is one of the reasons why I had so many like steps towards where I am now, is because I didn't do enough market research at a few of those stages to really understand what was wanted, what was needed. So take the time to do that. And honestly, be brave. Don't be afraid of reaching out to people. So there are so many creative entrepreneurs out there who are delighted to share of themselves. I say it to authors as well, to my authors, like, reach out to that author who's the $1 million author. Like, what the worst they're going to do is ignore you and not reply to your email. They're not going to bite you. Yeah.
That's great. I love how you just demonstrate bravery, courage, but also trust. So I just want to thank you so much, Danika. I know we could keep going on this.
Yes, thank you. And just a delight to work with, like, having both of you in my sphere, my work sphere, my life sphere is just, I just love having you both in that creative energy that is where I live. So thank you.
Same, very much same.
Thank you.